And joining me in the studio, Owen Hargreaves, Jermaine Jenas and Michael Owen. And Owen, pretty good overall, would you say, for the English sides, apart from Chelsea?
Well, I think for Tottenham, obviously, it's difficult. Juventus are not the same as they've been in the past. I think Tottenham, I believe, could get through against Juventus. I feel sorry for Chelsea fans. Obviously, Barcelona, that's the difficult one. But I think if you're Manchester United, you're very happy. Liverpool, Manchester City will be the happiest of everyone. Basel, that's a brilliant draw for them. But for Chelsea, it's really tough. But Conte is the one manager with that defensive tactics that he has. He can find a way to get a result against Barcelona.
Looking at that, how many English sides do you think we could see in the quarter-finals, Jermaine?
Well, definitely three I see going through. And obviously it comes down to what Spurs can do against Juve and obviously Chelsea against Barca. Agree with Owen. You know, the Barca tie is a very tough one. I still believe it's one that if Chelsea can sort out their defensive issues, that they could cause an upset. But the one that obviously really stands out is the Madrid Paris Saint-Germain game, which I think everybody else in the group looking at it would be looking forward to the fact that one of those will be going out.
PSG were favourites heading into this draw. How do you see it now, Michael?
Well, on the match day 6, I was working with Gary and Rio and Frank Lampard, and they both said Paris Saint-Germain are going to win it, and I said they won't. They'll definitely won't win it. So I think they're going to go out. I think Real Madrid. I was talking to Butragueño in midweek, and he was saying that they need to play better teams. The better teams they play, the more they get up for the game, and so I'm expecting Madrid to go through in that one. I just don't think PSG still have got that experience of going to the latter stages of the competition enough. So that's the highlight, isn't it, of the draw? But the English teams, it was so close to being a perfect, until that Chelsea one at the end. It could have been Besiktas, and then I was thinking we're going to have everyone through, possibly.
Almost a perfect draw for the English sides. Chelsea, though, paying the price, really, for finishing runners-up. We always knew they had a really good chance of meeting Barcelona. They've met 15 times before. It's not a bad record. Won 5, drawn 5 and lost 5. So I guess anything could happen.
Well, we've seen in the past, in some of these fixtures, some incredible moments. Remember that in yesterday, was it at Stamford Bridge? I mean, there's been some really iconic moments from both sides. But, obviously, everybody knows Barcelona are favourites. Dembele to come back into the side. They've been brilliant in La Liga this season. But Conte, he can easily find a way. Morata up top, Hazard off the left-hand side. Azpilicueta, he's a brilliant defender on his day. They have some Spanish influence in that side. And I just think they could find a way, but if Barcelona are at their best, then they're virtually impossible to stop.
And Chelsea with really good memories, though, of going through against them when they last won the Champions League, which I'm sure will be added motivation for them. Yeah,
I think if you think back to that game and the amount of luck, I suppose, that they got with certain things happening and going their way, they're probably going to need a bit of that again. Just looking at them defensively this year, they're just not as solid as they were last year. So, like I said before, if Antonio Conte can just galvanise them, get them together defensively as a unit to stop Messi, Dembele and Suarez, that formidable front three, then they've got a chance, but they're going to need some luck.
Well, let's get some reaction from Chelsea then. Club Secretary David Barnard is with Andy May.
Barcelona then, what do you think?
Well, I think Barcelona is one of those games that over the years has not only been an exciting fixture, it's also one that's had controversy. And as you know, that Stamford Bridge, where we felt that we were through to the final, and can't say more than it was some debatable decisions by the referee, which is now obviously water under the bridge. And then, of course, we had our most famous victory in the Nou Camp, and we went through to the final in Munich, in which we were up against the odds with John Terry being sent off, 2-0 down, and then Ramirez scored that fantastic goal, and then Torres rounded it off for us. So there's a lot of interesting games in the past that we've had against Barcelona.
You'll be realistic to know the Premier League's looking very tough at the moment with Manchester City pulling away. Does it put extra importance on the Champions League? Because you have done it before in 2012, as you were talking about.
Yes. I think for most of the people back at home, the bookmakers have put us the longest odds out of the English teams. But what they've got to remember is that we've got more players in our team that have actually been there and won the Champions League, or they've been into the final. So I don't think people should underestimate us in our goal in getting to the final.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, Barcelona against Chelsea, the toughest draw probably for an English side, although Tottenham could argue that they had the smallest chance of all the sides of drawing a tough team, Tottenham, but they've got Juventus. Owen, how do you see this one going?
Look, I think Juventus, you'd say on their experience, they would be favourites, but I think Tottenham, actually, in some of their best performances this season have been against teams like Real Madrid. Dortmund dominated possession, they found a way. This is not the same Juventus team, and I genuinely believe that Spurs, for me, could easily go through against Juventus. Juventus aren't what they were last season. They've struggled a little bit in Serie A, and I think Pochettino will find a way to get this young, dynamic team into the latter stages.
But finalists last season, finalists in 2015, their defence has taken them a long way in this competition. But is it the force it once was, Jermaine? Because it is ageing.
Yeah, it's ageing.
And Bonucci not there as well.
But some people call that, just getting more experienced. And in these latter stages of the competition, all that experience really does count. I agree with Owen. I still fancy Spurs. We're in the last 16, and I don't think it's a time to be kind of getting surprised with finding yourself against last year's finalists. But I think, obviously, where that little bit of disappointment will lie with Spurs is what they could have drawn. It could have been a lot easier, but at the same time, I'm confident that they'll go and get a good result in that fixture.
And after beating Real Madrid, they've beaten Dortmund as well. Tottenham shouldn't fear anyone, should they?
No, not at all. They've got a very, very strong team. A strong start in 11. I don't think their squad is massive. So as long as they're fit and healthy before this, then I think it's a toss-up a coin game. I couldn't really make anyone favourites. I think Tottenham have got an outstanding chance. And they've got players to hurt anyone. The only, as Jermaine says, the only disappointing thing is that there was that many teams that they could have drawn that would have been easier. However, there's a couple of teams in there as well that you just don't want to get. And Juventus aren't one of those. I think they're a sort of a mid-range team at the moment. And Tottenham shouldn't be too disappointed. I think they've got a fair chance of going through.
If there's one weakness there, would it be inexperience for Tottenham, especially going up against someone like Juventus?
Look, again, it can work both ways. That kind of not knowing what's coming, going into it a little bit fearless, and with this young side, it can play into their hands. But you have to learn the hard way. It's as simple as that. Spurs are kind of new to the competition, but this is a fixture that I think, knowing Maurizio and the players, that they'll be really looking forward to.
Now, yesterday, Jose Mourinho called Man City lucky. Does this draw just prove it?
Well, they weren't lucky yesterday. Look, they deserved that result, but they were lucky today. Basel, probably the weakest team in the whole competition. They were a little bit, fortunate to get a good draw. I think as players, you look to the draw, you're excited to see what could possibly be. Spurs and Chelsea get a difficult one, and Manchester City, they get a brilliant draw playing against Basel by far. For me, the weakest team left.
Well, they're now favourites, Man City. That's turned around rather quickly, which is no surprise, is it, Jermaine?
Well, they would have been one of the favourites anyway, and it doesn't take much. But as Owen said, that's a lovely draw for them.
Yeah, and I don't think Manchester United have been too hard done by the draw either, so I don't think Jose can accuse Manchester City of having such a lucky time of things. But, of course, I think what's really shone through as well is the importance of finishing top. The one team that have come second in Chelsea have got Barcelona. The rest of them deserve a decent draw. Finishing top in the Champions League group, you deserve a half-decent...
might argue it didn't help them.
But in general, we're talking...
Yeah.
Everyone's got what they've deserved.
Yeah, well, Man City up against FC Basel. Let's get some reaction from the City camp. Andy May is in Lyon.
Chicky, your take on drawing the team that aren't even top at the moment in Switzerland, their second Basel.
We're going to stay here until February. Okay, we are happy. I mean, we are happy, but of course we have to all respect for Basel and basically for the competition. So we have to be careful. So they deserve to be here. So also it happened with us. So ready to keep trying in this competition, to progress and to do well.
You and I were just talking about the performance against Napoli in the group stage. You must have a good feeling right now about City, not only in the Champions League, but the Premier League as well.
Yeah, it was a crucial game, no? I think we were fighting to qualify, then to fight to be top of the group, and even the first 20-25 minutes they played very, very good. So they scored. So the comeback was really important and show that we have also the character and the personality that a team need if they want to fight for the trophy.
Have a safe trip back.
Thank you very much.
So Manchester City, 11 points clear in the league. They've got FC Basel in the last 16 of the Champions League. How much is it going to help them as well, Michael, the fact that it looks like this title race is pretty much wrapped up, or certainly will be by February?
Well, players, fans, they must be pinching themselves at the moment, sailing, cruising in the Premier League, and now they're into the last 16 and got a relatively simple draw, we'd say, or the simplest of draws. So, you know, they've just got to keep a reasonably fit squad. And again, they can almost, if they're still, you know, flying away with the league, they can almost rest a few players and just focus on this Champions League, knowing that the Premier League's in the bag, which is unbelievable to say, you know, around February time when the next game is being played. So they are just in the best position they could be, and they couldn't have imagined being in a better position at this time of the year.
Yeah, big opportunity for Pep as well. The double is on, it looks like. On to win the tournament overall. So an interesting stat there. But the odds have changed. It was Man City and PSG favourites going into it. PSG were the favourites, but Man City have now overtaken them. Bayern Munich have gone into second because they've got Besiktas, and improving form for them as well, so a good tie for Bayern. And then it's PSG, Barcelona, Real Madrid and Man United in there, about 14-1 there. Is that how you see it now, Michael? Man City,
Let me just
big
digest
favourites?
those odds.
Real Madrid, 8-1.
Yeah. I get the Manchester City being favourites. I mean, they're just, well, beating everybody and beating everyone comfortably at the moment, and they've been given a really good draw, so I totally get that. Of course, with one of the big hitters going out as well in the next round, that's going to open things up even more. So, yeah, I get the Man City being favourites.
The bookie's not fancying Real Madrid this season, though, Owen. You don't get that?
No, I don't get that. What, have they won 3 of the last 4 Champions Leagues? I mean,
2 in a row.
One of the best players in the history of the game, Cristiano Ronaldo. The whole team is full of superstars. I don't think PSG are favourites. I think PSG, the one thing they lack is a goalkeeper, a world-class goalkeeper. Until they address that, for me, that group of players is one of the best I think we've seen. But the goalkeeper is a massive position in the Champions League. They haven't addressed that still. So for me, still, Real Madrid will be favourites.
Manchester United up against Sevilla. Liverpool couldn't beat Sevilla in the group stage. And, of course, they had that amazing comeback against them in the second half. So they're going to have to be alert in these days.
Look, Sevilla got very good European pedigree, more so in the Europa League. Having watched them this year, this isn't the strongest Sevilla side that I've seen over the years at all. I think Man United will relish playing against them. They seem far more open defensively at the back. And I just think over 2-legged games, I don't know, you're a strong man to go against Mourinho. I really believe that, because the way he kind of plots out those 2 games, he's done it over a number of years, and I think that's a tie that they'll comfortably go through in.
How big is the Mourinho factor, not only in this tournament, but just in 2-legged ties in general? Yeah. We saw it last season in the Europa League.
Yeah, definitely. I think tactically he's obviously one to know how to get through. I think that this is a really good draw for them. I'm convinced that Sevilla are half the team that they were a couple of seasons ago. Liverpool dominated both times, both ties, and somehow, impossibly, didn't win, but obviously drew. I think it's a great draw for Manchester United, and as you say, I don't even think that Jose Mourinho will have to be on the top of his game for United to go through. I think, you know, in the quarters and maybe semis, he'll have to maybe plot his way through a big boy. But this one's a good tie. I expect them to go through.
Yeah, they only kept 1 clean sheet, and that was against Maribor in the group stage. But for Liverpool, is that probably the kindest draw that they could have got of any of the English sides up against Porto?
Yeah, I mean, Porto, look, they're always going to be top of the Portuguese league pretty much. Going forward, probably as good as anyone. I think Liverpool, as good as they are to watch, their goal difference in that group stage was remarkable, really. But defensively, still some of those issues are there. We talk about, you know, defensively and the goalkeeper in the Champions League. You know, in crucial moments, you have to make saves, you have to defend well. Liverpool still have not found a way to address that. Maybe Jurgen Klopp just plays a little bit more defensive, trusts the front 4 to cause havoc, because I think against anyone they will score goals, but they're just a little bit too open still defensively at times. If he can address that, Liverpool, I think, could beat anyone. And they're favourites in this side, no question, against Porto.
He might not need to, perhaps until they get to the quarter-finals, Jermaine, if they do. Porto, with one of the leakiest defences in the group stage, conceding almost 2 a game. So if you put that Liverpool attack up against this Porto side, you've got to expect them to make it through.
You put them up against anybody, Linz, they're going to score goals. Just touching on that kind of defensive situation, I don't think any of us really believe that Jurgen Klopp will tighten up at any stage defensively in terms of them playing that way. He likes to play on the front foot. He likes to go and try and score goals, and I think he'll be relying heavily on that, the atmosphere at Anfield in those European nights to get them through. But that's a draw that they'll be happy with.
Will they still have Coutinho with them when they head into the knockout stages, do you think? Is there any chance he's going to leave and not see this Champions League campaign through with them?
Well, there has to be a chance. Obviously Barcelona courted him quite aggressively last time, and word is that they've not gone away. Yes, they've got one or two other targets, but I think they still fancy Coutinho, so that'll be really interesting over the winter. But I do think that of any team, the advantage of playing at home second lies with Liverpool, that atmosphere at Anfield. So I think that's important for this leg and hopefully future legs. If we can get teams back to Anfield, then anything can happen no matter what happens in the first legs.
Now, we all said, wow, when it was drawn, Real Madrid against PSG. PSG, Jermaine, desperate to be amongst Europe's elite and win this competition. Worst possible draw for them?
Yeah, I would say so. I think everybody looking at kind of PSG and Real this year thinking, well, that possibly could be the final that everybody's looking forward to. Their front three that they've heavily invested in tells you this is the trophy that they're desperate for. But I agree with what Owen said about Real. They've been nowhere near at their best, but this is a team that knows when to be at their best, and they've got till February to get themselves going, get players like Bale back, Asensio and so on, get them back in form, scoring goals. It's a tough draw for both, but I fancy Madrid to go through in that game.
Unai Emery's never won at the Bernabeu as well, and lost 9 of his 10 games there. We'll get some reaction now from the Real Madrid camp from Andy May.
And as you mentioned, you're the holders, you're 2-time winners in the last 2 years. Do you believe this season Real Madrid are still making progress? Because it is hard to do that when you have already won the titles.
It's very difficult to win once. Imagine 2.